Okay, so around 2 summers ago, me and my sister were just chilling in our room watching YouTube. My dad was in his room watching TV. And me and my sister haven't left our room in like maybe 2 hours. We were about to go to bed. And then my dad just starts calling our name. He's like, Ashley, Kayla, get over here. I'm like, bro, what? So we go into his room and he's like, which one of you just went into the kitchen? Me and my sister look at each other. We're like, none of us went in the kitchen. And he looks at us. He goes, yeah, one of you went into the kitchen. I know you did. And me and my sister look at each other and we're like, we have been in our rooms the whole time. So my dad grabs his gun and he looks around the house. There's nobody there. So I'm like, yo, what did you see? Like, what did you see? And he was like, I saw a tall black figure walk into the kitchen. Kind of like what I saw in my mirror. So I go back to my room, I shut my door, and I try to go to bed. Around 11 o'clock, everybody in my house got woken up to a huge shatter from downstairs. I got up, my heart was in my stomach because I thought someone broke in because it sounded like a window breaking. My dad grabs his gun and we all go downstairs. And my lizard's 20-pound cage was on the floor broken.
If a website ever asks you these questions, don't do what she did. Once there was a girl named Masha who heard that there's a new service that gives everyone free internet access. So she decided to use it, but this would lead to something horrifying for Masha and her family. After she connected to this internet service, a webpage popped up asking her to register some information, but the questions were oddly personal. It asked, what's your usual mode of transportation? With a photo of a bus, a boat, a train, and a plane. Masha took her bike to school every day, so she clicked on the train instead. But the next day, the local news showed that there was a horrific train crash that killed everyone on board. Masha thought that this was a coincidence, but soon she'd realized that she made a deadly mistake. Later, she needed to use the internet again, so she logged back in. This time it asked, what kind of home do you live in? Along with 4 different pictures of different types of homes. She clicked apartment even though her and her family lived in a house. And the next day, the apartment building near her school burned down. The police suspected arson. Then she went back to the internet server one last time, but this time it showed a photo of her mother, father, sister, and herself with the question, who is your favorite family? Do you know someone who wants to be around you all the time? For one newly married couple, this quickly turned into something more terrifying. So this couple got married and moved into their new house together. Soon the husband noticed that his wife became more attached to him than usual, as in she wouldn't be able to spend one moment away from him. She said, when you're not at home, I still feel you near me. I hear you calling my name. He just thought that she was being sweet, but the truth is not so simple. One day after he got back from work, his wife said, I think there's something wrong with me. You walked from the kitchen to the bedroom and was staring out the window all day. But the husband knew that he was at work all day. Over the next few days, she started acting even weirder, until one night she was next to her husband and said, you're not here. You're there, you're in the kitchen. Then they both heard a noise. The husband walked into the kitchen to investigate, and he saw himself standing there with a blank, lifeless expression on his face. This man, or whoever it was, walked out of the kitchen and disappeared into the hallway. And as the husband went back into his bedroom to get his wife, he heard someone's voice coming from behind him. It was his wife's voice, only it wasn't, and it whispered into his ear, we are here to stay forever.
So I'm getting worried about this guy following me. So I turn to him and say, all I have is $2 American. And that was true. I actually only had $2 in cash on me at that time. And he keeps repeating this word that I don't understand. Oh, pal. That's what he keeps saying over and over again. So I pull out the $2 and I look at him and I'm like, this is all I have. And he's like, okay. And he gives me the necklace and I give him the $2. And I'm not even sure if he'll leave me alone at this point. But after I buy the necklace, he turns around and starts walking away. So I'm really relieved. Obviously, I look at the necklace. I can barely see it because it's dark. And when I finally get back to the farm, I have dinner and then I go to bed. And while I'm getting ready for bed, I'm emptying my pockets and I look more closely at the necklace. And I realize it's actually really pretty. It's like a white iridescent gem, and I look it up and I realize it's probably an opal, which would make sense because opal sounds a lot like the word the guy kept repeating. So I decide to wear it because I actually really like it. So I put it on and then I go to bed. But in the middle of the night, I wake up to something I'd never experienced before. So people were claiming at this other beach in town that something was hitting them in the water. And they couldn't see what it was, but a few people had described the same sensation. The feeling of a really hard, blunt kind of punch in the water. So Lexi and I start to suspect that whatever's hitting people at that beach also hit me a few days earlier. And even though it was only July 19th, Lexi and I decided that it wasn't safe to swim behind the rock anymore. But I still would obviously go to the beach, and my favorite time to go was early in the mornings. And usually it would just be me at the beach at that time of day, but one morning I came down and the same old lady that thought that there had been a third girl swimming with us that one afternoon was standing there on the shore of the beach. She was just standing there with her feet in the water, but when I walked by, she turned around and she goes, "It must be a beautiful life out there. I bet they're happy." And then she bent down and picked something up from the sand and handed it to me. It was a type of shell that I had seen all the time. And she goes, "Do you know what these are? These are mermaid nails. We must have one living nearby this summer." And then she winks. A few nights later, I was at the beach again at a beach fire. And that's when I made a huge mistake.
This is a story of the time that I caught my neighbor's mom talking smack about me. So I don't know about you guys, but every single Wednesday in my middle school, we would have a bagel sale. And some people's parents would come in to help out. And my neighbor's mom was one of those parents. And I had a best friend at the time whose mom would also work at the bagel sales. But this best friend of mine, her mom never let us hang out with each other because she felt that I was a bad influence on her. When in reality, it was the complete opposite. She was the one that snuck the boys in her house, if you guys remember that story time, where they peed in a flower pot. So basically her mom wouldn't let us hang out. And sometimes my friend would go with her mom in the morning, basically as a ride to school, and to help out with the bagels too. And one day when she went in with her mom, my neighbor's mom also was there too. So my friend starts eavesdropping into their conversation, and my friend's mom brings me up and says how much of a bad kid I am and a bad influence. And my neighbor's mom was like, "Oh wow, that's my neighbor, like we always suspected something bad about her, our whole entire neighborhood knows this about her," basically making stuff up about me. So then I go home crying, tell my mom.
Okay, this one isn't long, but it definitely adds to the paranormal. So this one time I was hanging out with this kid, and I was out like an hour past my curfew, but I didn't really care because I thought my dad was asleep. So I pull up to my house and this kid's like, your dad's awake. I was like, there's no way he's awake. He has to get up at 3 a.m. and it's 10 p.m. He's like, no, I just saw someone standing outside the window and walk away. So I'm like, okay, great, I'm gonna get my ass beat. So I go inside, I'm ready to get yelled at, and I don't see my dad. So I go into his room, and this man is passed out snoring. So I was a little freaked out because my dad was asleep, so who did he see? So it's either a man living in my attic, or it might be a little ghost.
Storytime of how I found out that my little sister's teacher hid cameras in their bathroom. So my sister at the time was in 2nd grade, and they have bathrooms inside their classroom. Well, it's just one bathroom inside the classroom that they all use. And at that school, 4th grade and below, every single classroom has a bathroom inside the room so the kids don't have to wander the halls. So parent conferences that night started at 6 o'clock, and ours was scheduled for about 6:30. But we ended up not being able to make it at 6:30 because we had to do something, so we ended up coming around 7:45. Which at the time, everybody was already gone. So we go, and my parents sit down with the teacher and they talk. We had gone to Sonic before that, and I got a blue raspberry slushie, and I ended up spilling that all over the floor. So I run into the bathroom and I grab a bunch of paper towels. And right when I got in there, something just felt really weird to me. So after I cleaned it up, I walked back into the bathroom, and in the top right of the bathroom, in the corner, there was a box with a hole in it. I text my mom what I saw, and right after I get out of the bathroom, she says she has to go to the bathroom. I'm running out of time, like, for this crazy part, too.
Never play this game with your friends. Once there was a group of girls who heard about the game Baby Blue. They didn't believe in it but thought they could scare their friend Laura. So they sent Laura into a bathroom by herself. She turned off the lights, closed the door, and put her arms out as if to hold a baby. Then started chanting Baby Blue 13 times. What happened next cannot be explained. Laura felt a heavy weight in her arms. Then she felt the weight in her arms scratching her. She was terrified and didn't know what to do. She wanted to drop it, but she was afraid of what might happen if she did, so she froze, and the weight grew heavier and heavier. Suddenly, she saw a woman in the bathroom mirror with a twisted look on her face. She screamed in terror. When her friends heard her scream, they tried to open the door, but it was locked. When they finally opened the door, they found Laura on the floor. Her eyes had been scratched out. They tried to move her body, but they couldn't, because something large and invisible was pinning her to the ground. If you're ever studying late at night, don't do what she did. One night, a girl was studying alone in the library. It was around 2 in the morning, so she was getting pretty tired. But as soon as she shifted her books around, she noticed something strange. It was a website URL written on the desk. This made her curious, so she went on one of the computers in the library and typed in the website. But what she saw sent chills down her spine. It was a photo of a woman walking down a busy street, but it looked like it was taken from a distance, and the woman didn't know that she was being photographed. This made the girl feel uneasy, so she shut down the computer, grabbed her things, and left. But the next day, she became more curious. She thought it must be some kind of a joke, but she was too tired to notice, so she went back and typed in the website again. But this time, the image had turned into something terrifying. It was the same woman lying on the floor with a knife in her chest. The girl shut off the computer and called the police. After the call, she opened the computer again, but the photo had changed. It was now a photo of a girl in a library, taken from the back. It was a photo of her looking at the website. Underneath the photo was the caption, "You are my next internet star."